Pension funds, particularly in the United States, have become insolvent mainly due to theft from those in control of it. The claim has always been overpromising, but with booming market conditions over the last 9 years, that excuse must be ignored. Pensions are unfortunately a requirement for many people who rely on them in their old age, many who are physically unable to work, and who paid into a system for decades. I'm here to tell you, they lied. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is pensions. I have to tell you right now, you're not going to get your money. Many people will say that what I'm talking about is a lie, but it's them who has lied to you. If you have a pension that you're getting today and they haven't cut back on it, and if you are getting a pension but don't rely on it, you have other sources of income, your mortgage is paid off, and so on, well then, you will not be as affected as the millions of people who are or will rely on their pensions to support their lives. Today I'm going to get into an absolutely jam-packed episode. I'm going to show you lots of charts. I'm going to show you the examples of cases in which they have actually cut back on pensions today. They have already done it. They may not, in previous cases, have cut 100% of the pension. They don't want people to freak out, but they do so oftentimes about 1/3 at a time. A lot of people, that is just mind-boggling to think of. Now, I've ranted on enough in the introduction. I'm going to go through this as quick as I can. I've got this article first. I got some charts, some more articles. Let's get into this out of the Wall Street Journal. For the past century, a public pension was an ironclad promise. Whatever else happened, retired policemen and firefighters and teachers would be paid. This is the Wall Street Journal's words. That is no longer the case. Many cities and states can no longer afford the unsustainable retirement promises made to millions of public workers over many years. By one estimate, they are short $5 trillion, an amount that is roughly equal to the output of the world's third largest economy, and they're referring to Japan. Certain pension funds face the prospect of insolvency unless governments, check this out, increase taxes, divert funds, or persuade workers to relinquish money they are owed. How does that sound? Everybody is going to pay more taxes, or you're going to have money moving from one side of the government to the other, okay? Socialist type principles, or you're going to get less money. And I believe it will be all three. Nobody says that, but I do see that happening already. It is increasingly likely that retirees as well as new workers will be forced to take deeper benefit cuts. I've been saying this for years. I've been ridiculed, and I don't care because a lot of people are going to be hurt by this. And quite frankly, we need to be realistic. We need to see this for what it is. It is burdening the individual in the medium term and long term because of what's happening with all of these different funds that have been set up. And despite, as I said in the introduction, incredible performance in the stock market over these past few years, we have not seen the pension funds been able to keep up with that. Now, you might be saying, well, look, I've been getting my pension and my sister's been getting her pension, and my friends have been getting their pensions, and they're all working for different parts of the government, and so we're fine. It's not going to happen. Well, you need to get your head straight, and you need to realize what has actually happened in the past. When the math no longer works, the result is Central Falls, a city of 20,000 people. Today, retired police and firefighters are wrestling with the consequence of agreeing to cut their monthly pension checks by as much as 55% when the town was working to escape insolvency. The fiscal situation of the city, which filed for bankruptcy in 2011, has improved, but the retirees aren't getting their full pensions back. That's right, they're not going to get it back. This is one example. If you go to a search engine or wherever you want to search it out, maybe on this website, you can do so and just type out pensions, the money GPS. You're going to see all the videos I've done. I've done countless ones, but I show you examples of which, and the average that I have found over the years, documented here on the channel, has been 30%. They cut pensions at 30%. Now you might think to yourself, it's not going to happen to me. Well, then you might as well go to the casino and take another bet, because I really don't know what to tell you. Now, I'm going to go through these quickly. Deepening deficits. State pension deficits have grown steadily over the past 2 decades, but why worry? It's only trillions of dollars in the deficit. No need to be concerned about that. Further along in that Wall Street Journal article, there was this here. Climbing cost, public pensions are becoming a growing burden for many states and cities across the U.S. On the left-hand side, employer contribution as a percentage of payroll for the state and local pensions. It's continuously increasing, and at the same time, we see the funded ratio declining. These are fake numbers anyway. There's no way that they're anywhere near 75. It's just no way. Okay, this is probably more likely towards 0, but they use intragovernmental debt, they use all sorts of schemes that cover it up temporarily, but the money is all gone. All right, let's go through this. Pension benefits growth overwhelms Illinois economy, taxpayer incomes. Promised state pension benefits far exceeds everything else. The personal incomes, the state revenues, household incomes and everything else. I just have to look at this for what it is, and that is people are being completely ripped off. On average, state pension funds were nearly 88% funded back in 2003. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, why use the numbers if they're fake? Well, based on what we can tell anyway, they haven't changed the calculations. They probably were screwing around back then and still are today. So I can tell you that at least it has declined. The situation has become worse. I don't know what, the accuracy of these numbers, but I can tell you that it's gotten worse. That's all we need to know. That's why I use these numbers to some degree. Pension promises overwhelm economy. And you'll see that looking around New Jersey, New Hampshire, Kentucky, Illinois, Nevada, and Minnesota, they're all terrible in terms of their pension liabilities when compared to the GDP. There's another stat I'll show you in a sec that relates to that. States' overwhelming pension promises. They have made these false claims that they're going to be able to grow at 8% in the case of New Jersey, New Hampshire, and Kentucky, Illinois, Nevada, and all these places are not too far behind in the 7s. How are they ever going to grow this way when their performance is practically non-existent? And as I said, again, look at the stock market. It's been rising. There's no excuse for this other than theft. Total pension promises grow multiple times faster than GDP in most states. The blue line, although it might be hard to see, the font is quite small. But at the top of the list, you're seeing again New Jersey, New Hampshire, Kentucky, Illinois, Nevada. These places here, while their GDP is looking like it's terrible, when you compare it to the liabilities, they are just hemorrhaging, and they are never going to be able to pay back everything. They're going to have to do something, and unfortunately, people are going to have to take losses. They take them in the form of taxation, they take them in the form of cuts, as well as any other scheme that they're willing to figure out. 5 states with the largest growth in pension promises. Here is another list on the left-hand side. 5 states with the smallest growth in pension promises. Okay, so we get a difference here looking at all of this. It's interesting to see GDP growing faster than the accrued liabilities, where, that is not something you see very, very often. So that's an interesting chart there. Now, just a couple more points before I end the video. This is talking about an individual who was, or family anyway, that was ripped off in their pensions. And they had these private market products. And at the bottom, it explains it. Future Income, the company, essentially sold investors other people's pensions. So we're using pensions as an investment. I don't agree with this at all. I think this is terrible. This company should definitely have their own investigations going on and figuring out exactly what went on, how many people have been ripped off, and hopefully there's some sort of insurance for people who were legitimately just trying to get by. Okay, so as it says here, Future Income would sell the rights to investors for a lump sum. An investor might put up $100,000 in exchange for an income of 7% for 5 years, for example. So people are thinking for themselves, I could actually make income today from the pension that I have. It's just sitting there. I can't touch it, but maybe I can just make a little bit of money from it. Of course, like any other Ponzi scheme, like any other scam, eventually it always screws people over, right? That's what we're seeing here. Now, when I look at this, I have to think to myself, what are people doing? They have an incredible amount of money in here, let's say $100,000, and they want 7%. Well, what if they were given a monthly income with $100,000, if somebody has that, and they invest it into something like real estate in some cities where it's still undervalued. There are many places you can get in the US. You can get a home for $100,000, not in the city that you live in necessarily, but in other places. You could bring in a rental income. Maybe you bring in, let's say, $800 a month, and that would be able to pay some of the bills. But if you were to leverage it a little bit, maybe you bought a home that's worth $200,000 and you put $100,000 down, still very safe. Historically, in that case, interest rates are quite low now, and hopefully you'll be able to pay it down a little bit later. Maybe you're going to make $1,000 a month or $1,200 a month. Anyways, these are just examples, and I'm just trying to say that you don't have to pay into a pension, you don't have to pay into a retirement account, because we can do this on our own. I understand that we don't have the ability to decide. Obviously, if you're just working for the government or whatever, it just happens automatically. I think that they should phase out the pensions, pay people today if they're going to get it, and then basically a slow phase out over maybe 10 or even 20 years. Just phase the whole thing out. Admit that you lied to people. That's very important. Admit that you lied and that you could never, ever imagine this level of growth when you're stealing the funds at the same time. Just admit it. Come clean. Pay the people off now and have the future people do what they want with their own money. Decide what they want to do with it, and people have to get wise. And you could say that, well, people aren't going to save. Well, then they're going to get screwed over. That's the reason why people, they have a safety net available to them, and they are basically going to use it. That's just the way it is. If the safety net's not there, they have to prepare, they have to do what they can. Lifeguarding in OC is totally lucrative, some making over $200,000. This here shows us that they're making in Orange County, I believe that is OC, Orange County, yes. What they're saying is that people are paying oftentimes over $100,000 to be a lifeguard. I think this is a very interesting to me. I didn't realize that lifeguards get paid that much, but perhaps in this area, it does get a little bit crazier than a lifeguard at a local swimming pool or something. But what was also interesting to me is that they're getting 90% of their money, 90%, over for the rest of their life for their pensions. That to me is incredible when you're paying somebody, $100,000 a year. That's far above the median household income in the area, and the money is just, it's evaporating. There's none left. The government doesn't have any money left. It's bankrupt, and we need to get this idea out of our head that there will be money for you and I one day. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. You should need to share this on your social media. It's very important to understand the truth about it. Or just take some of the articles that I showed you here and show other people, okay? If you don't want to show my video, you can just show them that yes, it is possible that people can lose their pensions. Pensions can be cut, and it will continue to happen. I've done many videos of this before. You can see that by typing in pension or pensions, the money GPS, and there'll be a long list, perhaps even on the side of the page or the bottom of the page here. You'll just scroll down and see more of those. If you found the video informative, again, I'd appreciate your thumbs up. If you want the financial education that was not taught to you in schools, well, then these two books have it all. If you want to be able to break down what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and how you can actually profit from the scenario, well, then these two books are going to have that information for you. You can see them at the link in the description. If you're more interested in the audiobook version, that's available at themoneygps.com.